everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you a mystery envelope collaboration. This is the second one that I've done with artist Bea Grob, and she sends a mystery envelope full of goodies. That's what I'm opening right now. There's a lot of vintage things like some vintage fabric and illustrations and ribbon, little metal pieces, things like that, glass glitter. And she sends out these envelopes to everyone in the group, and then everyone makes a project, and we have a video hop. So below the video, down in the description box where it says see more down there, there's links, and you can hop from one person to another and see what they did with the things that they were sent. What I decided to make is here I am holding my quotations up, junk journal. I don't think this is a real junk journal because it's not made out of junk. It's made out of ephemera. So really it's an ephemera journal. And that, to me, a junk journal is something that's made out of junk, like what I've been using all month for my hashtag event all month. I've been using pages made out of junk mail. And that to me is what a junk journal is. But there is a whole nother genre of people out there that think that just making an ephemera journal out of things that you have, like even out of a package that was coordinated to go together, like one from Craftbox or something, is a junk journal. So that's what I'm making, is that type of a journal. And I had this this journal kit thing. It's like a 3-ring bound 8-page little blank journal that I got probably at Tuesday morning a long time ago. I don't know. It's been sitting in my box of stuff forever. And I decided that I was going to use it to do this project. So what I'm going to show you basically today is how I made the front and back cover using the items that Bea sent, with the addition of a few items from the recent craft box that I got, which it was called Vintage Seamstress, and it had a lot of the same type of things that just I thought went with what Bea sent. So I used those to fill in because there wasn't enough things in the mystery envelope to do the entire journal. I definitely used them all up inside the journal, and I made all the pages. But if you want to see the entire flip through of every single page of this journal, I can do that, and I'll just do it in my vlog for December 1st, because this video is already way too long. I don't have time to show every single page. But I did complete the entire journal. So it's made out of like some sort of chipboard, I guess is what you'd call it. It's kind of a thick paper. It has holes already punched, and then it has these weird little tabs all along the edge of it, which is supposed to make it cuter. I don't know if it's cuter. I don't know if I like the tabs, but I left it. And the first thing I did was take the first and last page to make them into the covers. And I'm using the fabric that Bea sent. It's a kind of a brocade fabric that maybe you would see a fancy old-fashioned dress from, vintage times made out of it. It's a very nice fabric. And that's what I received in this package. So I'm using it to cover the covers to begin with, and then I'm carefully making sure that everything is glued down. I've taken the edges and wrapped them around the edge of the covers and into the inside. I'm using Liquitex matte gel medium to do all of this. The first piece, which ends up being the back, I kind of stretched the fabric on accident and made it kind of crooked, so the stripes weren't quite as nice. So I ended up using the other piece for the front because the stripes were in a lot better shape. They weren't distorted. I'm not sure how that happened, but it did. Then for the back sides of the tabs, I want them also covered with fabric. So I'm just taking a little piece and gluing it down on there to cover the little back edge of the tab. And then I'm covering the rest of the insides of the covers with some cardstock. This is olive cardstock. And I've got a potting soil archival ink pad and this stamp. It's called Linograph. It's from I'm stamping up from a long time ago. It's a big background stamp. So I stamped that on the covers, and then I'm distressing the edges of the paper using this little tool. I guess it's called a paper distressor. I don't know. I'll look it up for you when I do my links for all the products in the description box below, like I always do for you guys. I think people use them, so I continue to do it. It does take a lot of time. So then I went around the edges with the ink pad as well to kind of darken the edges. And then now I've misted the cardstock and I'm wadding it up. And then going over the crinkly edges, highlighting the tops with that same ink pad. And it kind of gives the idea of a leather, sort of. Like if you did it with brown paper or craft paper, it looks a lot like leather. And you can wad it up again, highlight it again, wad it up again. I mean, you could really get into this process, but I just wanted it to look a little bit distressed looking so that it wasn't so new in this very vintagey book. There's some dictionary pages that are definitely old dictionary pages, and I think they're maybe in German, that I'm going to be using for the insides of the books. And those came from Bea in a couple different packages. Remember, I did the mystery envelope before, and I got some of that dictionary paper back then. So I have a few pages of it. So I'm going to be using that. So then here is the illustration that she sent. This is a fashion illustration, and it has something about Paris on it. So I'm calling this the Parisian Fashion Junk Journal, or Paris Fashion Junk Journal. And I do use some other images of Victorian era ladies in their fashions throughout the book that I printed off the internet. And then you just use those here and there. But this one is a very nice illustration, and it's on a page. It's obviously from a book, and I trimmed her out, and I'm going to put her on the cover as the focal image. So then I need some other things to add to make the cover special. There's this little metal piece that looks like it should be on a corner of a book, and I thought that it would make it cute, kind of like a little crown on the top of her head. I'm using some of that same olive paper that coordinates with the inside covers. I'm using some of the extra pieces of text from the page that I trimmed out, tucking them here and there, and then these words in French which say something about Paris and fashion, and I don't know, an illustration or something. I don't read French, but yeah. Then I still have that box of things left over from CraftboxUK, which sent me this box that was called Vintage Seamstress. And this little die cut piece is one of the things that was in that box. There's still a ton left. I mean, I made a whole mixed media assemblage canvas and still had a ton left of that box. So I decided to use that little, because the idea of the theme of the book is about fashion, Paris Fashion Week or whatever. In the olden days, obviously, people don't wear these clothes anymore. I decided to use that dress form because I thought that was a cute addition. And then I have a metal leaf that was in the package from Bea, and this illustration. Then a piece of dark paper that has some printing on it that was packaging that was left over from that CraftboxUK box. And what else? Oh, there was some glass glitter. Like, I think it's like literally like crushed up glass, like old glitter. Before they started making it out of polyester and stuff. So I'm going to use that. And oh, here's some crackle paste. I wanted to you know, crackle paste looks good with distressy, vintagey things. The only color I have is white, so I have to color it after the fact. But I'm adding a little bit of crackle paste here and there and allowing it to dry on its own, because if you heat dry crackle paste, it gets smaller cracks. And if you let it dry on its own, it gets bigger cracks. So I have some iCraft mixed media glue from Thermoweb brand that I'm using to glue down the metal pieces. This copper colored leaf is really cool. I kind of wished I could just save it, use it for jewelry or something, but I went ahead and glued it on the front. Also, under the leaf, I put like a little randomly wound up, wadded up bit of thread, which, you know, continues that idea of seamstress and fashion and, you know, those type of things. Then I added a little bit of that media glue here and there and sprinkled on this clear crystal glass glitter that Bea sent to give a little bit of bling. Kind of on the crown, it looks like diamonds. It also made my copper leaf even heavier and it wanted to fall off. But then I'm just kind of brushing away the excess and saving the excess back into the little package for later for some other project someday. Then with my little dress form, I'm using some copper paint. That's a PBO iridescent copper paint to color it. And then I decide that it's not quite the right color and I add a little bit of gold PBO iridescent paint with it as well. And that kind of turns it into more of a bronze color, which is similar to what the leaf color is. Sort of a, the coppery was just too bright. So once I put the gold over it a little bit, it looked better. I managed to tear that thing into 4 pieces. It's not very sturdy. So, excuse me, I did sort of have to glue it together in separate pieces, but that iCraft mixed media glue has a tiny little nozzle, so it makes it easy to apply glue to the back of small things like this, you know, small little filigree pieces and stuff. That's the best use for this glue. And it's strong as well. It'll hold the metal pieces on once it's dry. So I got my little dress form on there. And then I think, oh yeah, I got out like a little framed gem, I think, and put it on there. That gem was also from the CraftboxUK box. And I also used a few scraps of their papers on the inside pages and maybe one little thing from their ephemera pack. But anyway, it was a good combination. Bea's mystery envelope and the CraftboxUK vintage seamstress. And I'll link it in the iCard above and probably in the links at the end of the video. That other video where you'll see all the those products from CraftBox. So here's some Tattered Angels Shimmer Glimmer Mist. Glimmer Mist. And I started with the color Dijon, and then I ended up adding some olive vine and then some vintage leather colors to color that crackle paste that I put on there. It was way too white. It was just white. Plus, when you use crackle paste, you want to emphasize or highlight the crackles because that's the whole point. Why would you use it if you didn't have crackles? That's the whole point of it. So you want to make sure that you can get some type of media down in those crackles, and sprays are a good choice for that because they're thin and you can kind of force them down into the cracks to make those stand out a little bit better, as well as coloring the paste. So I alternatively applied it by spraying it. I applied it by just taking the little plastic straw from the inside and using it to shake or scratch it on there, and then also with a little bit of a brush as well in places where I couldn't get underneath the dress form and stuff. So that adds some more dimension to the whole thing by having some color variation. And that worked out really well. So happy with that. Gave it a good dry. Had to blot it a little bit in places and spread it a little bit with some water spray. But after that, once it was all dry, I was pretty happy with the cover. I don't think I put my little gem on there yet. Maybe I get to that later. You know, I remember what I did, but I don't remember what order it was in. There's the little gems. They're like little plastic or glass gems framed with a metallic looking frame around them. So I thought that went on there pretty well. It looks like something maybe one of these fancy Parisian ladies would have had to wear as a choker or something. Oh yes, and then I thought I needed a little piece of lace. So I was trying to figure out where to put the lace. I ended up just taking one little section of it and adding it over by the leaf at the end. But that's pretty much for the front cover what I did. And of course I had to keep punching the holes on all the pages using my crocodile to make sure. And when I was punching through the fabric, then I just used my stylus and kind of pressed down from the top, and the fabric settled down into the holes pretty well because it was still wet with the matte medium, and then it just kind of looked like it was gluing itself down inside. Now that piece, those two pieces that Bea sent, that is it's a clasp. It's supposed to be a clasp, and I was thinking I would maybe make it the clasp of the book, but I just couldn't figure out how to do it. So I decided to just save it for another project. That would be something you'd use like on a bracelet or something to, you know, the bar goes through the hole and then it fastens a bracelet or necklace. So that's what that is, in case you were wondering. Now here's the back. You can see this is the back is where the lines, the stripes are a little bit out of whack because the fabric got stretched when I was attaching it. So I'm adding some different pieces of paper. There's a little scrap left over from the fashion illustration, and there's that scrap of packaging, some of the olive colored paper that I used. And I'm just kind of making a little focal area to put that really cool Mona Lisa piece of plastic. I think it's plastic. It could be porcelain, but I think it's plastic. But it has an image of the Mona Lisa on it, which is really cool. It's a neat thing, a neat little, like the inside of a brooch type of an idea without the frame. So then I'm adding some of the Glimmer Mist colors onto that as well, and a little bit of water to blend them. At some point I realized that it's upside down and I need to flip it, so I had to pull Mona Lisa off and put her the other way. It wasn't dry yet, so it was okay. The tabs are confusing. Yeah. That's when I figured out. There we go. Okay. Turn her around. Then add another little piece down here because now that little section of dress is upside down, but it doesn't really matter. It wasn't a whole image anyway, so it's just kind of background. So that's the back, and then I set those aside to dry and start on the inside pages. I guess not quite yet. I guess I wanted to put some copper on there a little bit. And I found that other little scrap that was from the fashion illustration, and I thought that would go on there to add a little bit of interest. So I put that on there as well. Just kind of tuck it under. It's the top part of her hat that got torn off because the illustration was larger than the 6x6. Okay, so for the inside pages, I covered them on the front and on the back using varied papers. I used up all the dictionary pages that I had in what I think is German. They're old, like ancient pages. I had this tissue paper that I thought matched pretty well. It was from the inside of a package of like spa mask and moisturizer and all that stuff. I thought that matched pretty well. It has like this print on it that's in kind of a rust color. There's some pieces of this map. The map piece that she sent was really interesting. It had like a mesh on the back of it. Like maybe it was wallpaper, like old wallpaper or something. I don't know. It was really interesting and cool piece of vintage ephemera. It's just neat stuff. I didn't end up using it all up. I still have a little piece of it left for another project because I was kind of hoarding it a little bit. I know I'm supposed to use everything in the mystery envelope, but I was like, this is cool. I want to save it. So here's some of the vintage text. So I'm making them very simple. And the idea is that you could add journaling or photographs on the inside of this to make this into your own journal. So this would be a cute idea to give as a gift at Christmas. You know, now it's time to start making your Christmas gifts and your Christmas cards and all that stuff. So that's what I'm going to use it for, or else I might, if somebody really wants it, I can sell it to them. I don't really know who I would give it to at this point, who might like a vintage journal like this in my own family. So I'm thinking about it, but if somebody would like to purchase it, just contact me. So yeah, I just show a couple of these and then I show you how I finished them. So a good way to finish the edges of something like this when it's made out of chipboard is to use a sanding block. And these vintage papers and the tissue paper are very light, and you can just trim it right off by using the sanding block, and then it makes it the perfect size and perfect finish on the edges of all the pages. And then I went around the edges of them with the potting soil archival ink, and if they had things glued on them, I used a brown, like there's the playing card that she sent right there. I used a brown pit pen and went around and made shadows. So if you guys want to see the flip through, just leave it in the comments below and I'll be sure to do it on my December 1st-ish vlog. I'll give you the flip through of the whole book. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure that you go and use the links below the video to click and go see what the other people made using the mystery envelope number 2. And if you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question. Subscribe if you haven't already. All those good things. Share if you know somebody who would like to see this junk journal, this junkish journal. And here comes your close-ups. Bye-bye.